To assert that the son of a slave is born a slave is to assert that he is not born a man. The moment the people is legitimately assembled as a sovereign body, the jurisdiction of the government wholly lapses. With enough leverage, a finger could overturn the world. But to support the world, one must have the shoulders of Hercules. The sovereign, merely by virtue of what it is always what it should be. There is no evildoer who could not be made good for something. Tranquility is found also in dungeons. But is that enough to make them desirable places to live in? When the whole people decrees for the whole people, it is considering only itself. Everything conspires to take away from a man who is set in authority over others the sense of justice and reason. If there were a nation of gods, it would govern itself democratically. A government so perfect is not suited to men. Man is born free, and everywhere he is in chains. In truth, laws are always useful to those with possessions and harmful to those who have nothing. Government is an intermediate body set up between the subjects and the sovereign to secure their mutual correspondence. There is no subjection so perfect as that which keeps the appearance of freedom. To renounce liberty is to renounce being a man, to surrender the rights and duties of humanity. The right of conquest has no foundation other than the right of the strongest. There is often a great deal of difference between the will of all and the general will. It is easier to conquer than to administer. Under bad government, this equality is only apparent and illusory. It serves only to keep the pauper in his poverty and the rich man in the position he has usurped. The strongest is never strong enough to be always the master, unless he transforms that strength into right. Whoever blushes confesses guilt. True innocence never feels shame. Insults are the arguments employed by those who are in the wrong. Plants are shaped by cultivation and men by education. What wisdom can you find that is greater than kindness? Falsehood has an infinity of combinations, but truth has only one mode of being. It is not possible for minds degraded by a host of trivial concerns to ever rise to anything great. You forget that the fruits belong to all and that the land belongs to no one. When something an affliction happens to you, you either let it defeat you, or you defeat it. We are reduced to asking others what we are. We never dare to ask ourselves. Patience is bitter, but its fruit is sweet. One can buy anything with money except morality. We are born, so to speak, twice over. Born into existence and born into life. Born a human being and born a man. I would rather be a man of paradoxes than a man of prejudices. Happiness, a good bank account, a good cook, and a good digestion. Why should we build our happiness on the opinions of others when we can find it in our own hearts? Conscience is the voice of the soul. The passions are the voice of the body. Every man has the right to risk his own life in order to save it. Absolute silence leads to sadness. It is the image of death. Nature never deceives us. It is we who deceive ourselves. When a man dies, he clutches in his hands only that which he has given away during his lifetime. In Genoa, the word libertas can be read on the front of prisons and on the fetters of galley slaves. The application of this motto is fine and just. The more I examine the work of men in their institutions, the more I see that in seeking independence they make themselves slaves. It is believed that physiognomy is only a simple development of the features already marked out by nature. In a well-governed state, there are few punishments, not because there are many pardons, but because criminals are rare. Political writers argue in regard to the love of liberty with the same philosophy that philosophers do in regard to the state of nature. Those people who treat politics and morality separately will never understand either of them. Government in its infancy had no regular and permanent form. If the magistracy is hereditary, a community of men is often governed by a child. The science of government is only a science of combinations, of applications, and of exceptions, according to times, places, and circumstances. As soon as any man says of the affairs of the state, "What does it matter to me?" the state may be given up for lost. It is when a state is in decay that the multitude of crimes is a guarantee of impunity. Extend the law of necessity into the sphere of morals and learn to lose whatever can be taken from you, and to rise above the chances of life. The body politic, taken individually, may be considered as an organized, living body, resembling that of man. If I am part of a group of 100 people, do 99 people have the right to sentence me to death, just because they are majority? The power of the laws depends still more on their own wisdom than on the severity of their administrators, and the public will derive its greatest weight from the reason which has dictated it. Equality is deemed by many a mere speculative chimera, which can never be reduced to practice. Government originated in the attempt to find a form of association that defends and protects the person and property of each with the common force of all. The sovereign power represents the head, the laws and customs of the brain, the source of the nerves and seat of the understanding, will and senses, of which the judges and magistrates are the organs. Never exceed your rights, and they will soon become unlimited. There are times when I am so unlike myself that I might be taken for someone else of an entirely opposite character. Everything we do not have at our birth and which we need when we are grown is given us by education. Do not base your life on the judgments of others. First, because they are as likely to be mistaken as you are, and further, because you cannot know that they are telling you their true thoughts. It is as if my heart and my brain did not belong to the same person. Feelings come quicker than lightning and fill my soul, but they bring me no illumination. Everything is good as it comes from the hands of the maker of the world, but degenerates once it gets into the hands of man. It is plain that an ignorant person thinks everything he does know important, and he tells it to everybody. Those that are most slow in making a promise are the most faithful in the performance of it. It is too difficult to think nobly when one thinks only of earning a living. Once you teach people to say what they do not understand, it is easy enough to get them to say anything you like. The man who gets the most out of life is not the one who has lived it longest, but the one who has felt life most deeply. The first step towards vice is to shroud innocent actions in mystery, and whoever likes to conceal something sooner or later has reason to conceal it. A well-educated man is not so ready to display his learning. He would have too much to say, and he sees that there is much more to be said, so he holds his peace. I feel an indescribable ecstasy and delirium in melting, as it were, into the system of being, in identifying myself with the whole of nature. I am not made like any of those I have seen. Too often reason deceives us. We have only too much acquired the right of refusing to listen to it. But conscience never deceives us. It is unnatural for a majority to rule, for a majority can seldom be organized and united for specific action, and a minority can. If we assume man has been corrupted by an artificial civilization, what is the natural state? The state of nature from which he has been removed. To write a good love letter, you ought to begin without knowing what you mean to say, and to finish without knowing what you have written.